For a long time, I thought I was just stressed. I blamed my schedule. I blamed getting older. I blamed poor sleep, busy days, and all the little things that seemed to pile up after 50. But eventually, I realized something that surprised me. It wasn't just stress. My brain was exhausted. And if you've been feeling different lately, if your mind feels slower, foggier, or harder to trust than it used to, this conversation may help you understand why. Because many adults over 50 experience something similar, and often they assume it's normal. Or worse, they quite worry that something serious is happening. But sometimes the explanation is much simpler and much more common. Something didn't feel right. It started slowly. Nothing dramatic. I was still doing my daily routines, still paying bills, still remembering appointments, still functioning. But something felt off. I would walk into a room and forget why I was there. Names wouldn't come to me right away. Simple decisions felt strangely overwhelming. Conversation required more effort. Reading a book became harder. Even watching television, I noticed my mind drifting. At first, I blamed stress. Life as a way of keeping us busy. Family responsibilities, financial concerns, health appointments, news headlines, never-ending notifications. I thought everyone felt this way, and maybe they did. But what worried me wasn't just being stressed. It was a feeling that my brain never fully recovered. Even after resting, even after sleeping, even after quiet days, something still felt heavy. Almost like my mind was working twice as hard just to do normal things. And that's when I began to understand something important. Stress and brain exhaustion are not always the same thing. When your brain never gets a chance to recover, your brain is incredibly resilient, but it also needs recovery. Just like your muscles need rest after exercise, your brain needs periods of restoration. Unfortunately, many adults over 50 spend years living in a constant state of low-level stress. Not emergency stress, just endless stress. Worrying about loved ones, managing finances, taking medications, caring for aging parents, helping adult children, watching the world change, trying to stay healthy, trying to sleep better, trying to keep everything together. And over time, your brain stays on, always alert, always processing, always worrying. The problem is that the brain wasn't designed to stay in that mode forever. Eventually, mental fatigue builds up, not because you're weak, not because you're lazy, and not necessarily because something is seriously wrong. Sometimes your brain is simply overworked, and exhausted brains don't always announce themselves dramatically. Instead, they whisper through forgetfulness, brain fog, poor concentration, mental heaviness, difficulty finding words, lack of motivation, feeling overwhelmed by simple tasks. These symptoms can feel frightening, but often they're signs that your brain needs support, not punishment. Why sleep doesn't always fix it. Many people say, I slept 8 hours, so why do I still feel mentally tired? Because brain exhaustion isn't always caused by lack of sleep. Sometimes it's caused by lack of restoration. Those are not the same thing. You can spend 8 hours in bed and still wake up feeling mentally drained, especially after 50. Changes in sleep quality become more common. Deep sleep becomes lighter. Stress hormones can stay elevated. Blood sugar fluctuations can interrupt sleep. Frequent bathroom trips may break sleep cycles. And even when you don't remember waking up, your brain may have spent the entire night working harder than it should. The result? Morning brain fog, slow thinking, difficulty concentrating, feeling like your mind never fully turned off. It's frustrating because physically you may look fine, but mentally you feel like you're carrying an invisible weight. And that invisible weight can affect every part of life. The hidden cost of constant information. Think about how different life was decades ago. There were fewer screens, fewer notifications, less noise. Today, our brains process enormous amounts of information every day. Phone alerts, news updates, social media, emails, television, medical information, financial concerns, messages, appointments. Even when we're sitting quietly, our minds rarely stop. And an exhausted brain doesn't necessarily need more information. It often needs less. Many adults over 50 unknowingly overload their minds, not because they're doing something wrong, but because modern life demands constant attention, and attention is expensive. Your brain spends energy every time it switches focus. Every worry, every headline, every distraction, every decision. Over years, that mental energy adds up. Eventually, your brain starts asking for rest in subtle ways. And if we ignore those signals, brain fog often becomes worse. What brain exhaustion feels like. Brain exhaustion isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it feels like this. You lose your train of thought mid-sentence. You reread the same paragraph 3 times. You forget why you opened the refrigerator. You can't remember simple words. You feel mentally slower than usual. You struggle to focus. You lose interest in things you used to enjoy. You become easily overwhelmed. You feel tired after social interactions. You crave quiet. And perhaps the most frustrating symptom of all, you begin questioning yourself. You wonder, am I losing my memory? Is this normal aging? Am I developing something serious? Those fears are understandable. But brain exhaustion itself can mimic many symptoms that create anxiety, which is why paying attention to your lifestyle matters. Because sometimes the brain isn't failing, it's simply depleted. What helped me the most? I stopped fighting my brain, and I started supporting it. First, I stopped expecting myself to function like I did 20 years ago. That alone brought relief. Then I simplified my mornings. Instead of grabbing my phone immediately, I sat quietly. I drank water. I allowed my brain to wake up slowly. I started walking every day. Nothing extreme, just 20 or 30 minutes. Movement improved blood flow and helped clear some of the mental fog. I also reduced unnecessary information. Less television, less bad news, less endless scrolling, more silence, more sunlight, more conversations with people I enjoy, and perhaps most importantly, I stopped treating rest as laziness because rest is maintenance, especially after 50. Your brain isn't asking you to do less because you've become weaker. It's asking for recovery because recovery is necessary. Nutrition matters more than we think. The brain consumes enormous amounts of energy, and after 50, nutrition becomes increasingly important. Skipping meals, living on sugar, eating highly processed foods, dehydration, all of these can contribute to mental fatigue. Simple habits can make a difference. Drinking enough water, eating protein regularly, including healthy fats, enjoying colorful fruits and vegetables, avoiding excessive sugar spikes. None of these are magic cures, but small daily habits add up, and brains thrive on consistency, not perfection. Sometimes we need to slow down. Many of us spent decades pushing ourselves, working, providing, taking care of others, solving problems, always moving. And somewhere along the way, we forgot that the brain ages too. Not in a frightening way, but in a way that requires kindness. Your brain may need more recovery than it did at 30. More sleep, more quiet, more routines, less chaos. That isn't weakness. It's biology. And respecting those changes doesn't mean giving up. It means adapting wisely. When it's time to talk to a doctor, brain exhaustion is common, but persistent changes should never be ignored. If memory problems suddenly worsen, if confusion becomes severe, if daily activities become difficult, or if loved ones notice significant changes, speaking with a healthcare professional is important. Many conditions can affect memory and thinking. Vitamin deficiencies, medication side effects, sleep disorders, thyroid problems, depression, blood sugar issues, and sometimes addressing those causes can dramatically improve mental clarity. Getting answers isn't something to fear. It's an act of self-care. For years I thought I was just stressed. I thought I needed to work harder, sleep more, push through, ignore it. But eventually, I realized something that changed everything. My brain wasn't lazy. My brain wasn't broken. My brain was exhausted. And exhausted brains deserve support, not shame, not fear, not endless self-criticism. If you've been feeling mentally slower lately, if mornings feel harder, if your mind feels heavy, if you worry because things don't feel like they used to, you're not alone. Many adults over 50 experience these changes, and sometimes the answer isn't that you're failing. Sometimes your brain has simply been carrying too much for too long. And perhaps the most important thing to remember is this: growing older doesn't mean giving up on brain health. It means learning to care for your mind with the same compassion you've spent a lifetime giving to everyone else.
Before we conclude, a quick reminder. The information shared in this video is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this channel. Your health is your most valuable asset. Treat it with the professional care it deserves.